What's up, fellow roaders? I'm Joshua Thomas, here to give you my initial thoughts on Betrayal Legacy. Now, I had considered doing a review on Betrayal Legacy. After all, we've played 3 games of this particular game. As you can see here, we've got 3 things written down. I won't show it to you too long because you may consider it to be a little bit spoilery, but I usually would give a review or my tabletop talk review on a game after having played it at least 3 times. But for a legacy game, we're only into it so far. I mean, this is the stack of house tiles, which we haven't even looked at yet. I mean, that is a pretty thick stack right there. And these are all tiles that have yet to be added to the game. You can look at the other side there. It says do not open or do not look at these until, the deck tells you to. So I feel like I can't give a full review on it. So initial thoughts are just going to have to do. So the first thing you should know is that Betrayal Legacy is a legacy game. I've got Pandemic Legacy Season 2 under here, just as an example. For those of you who have never played a legacy game before and don't know what one is, a legacy game is a game in which each time you play it, you are going to permanently change the board and components forever. In other words, your game from game 1 is going to be completely different from anyone else who owns this particular game. An example will be, and this isn't spoilers, this is stuff you can see when you open the box, and don't worry, I'm not going to show any spoilers in this video. You can see stickers have been placed in various parts of these tiles, and those stickers represent things that happened while we were playing the game. I won't say what. And those are just a couple examples of how a legacy game works. There are also tons of components that you don't start off with in a legacy game. This is the Purgatory deck, and as you can see it says, do not look at this deck until instructed. Do not shuffle this deck. So these cards are actually numbered, and you can see there's numbers in case for something should ever happen and you need to reorder them. The Legacy deck, or the Tome, or the Bleak Journal, I should say, will tell you when you should look into the Purgatory deck. The Bleak Journal contains over 200 little paragraphs that are representing the story aspect of this legacy game. Now, if you've ever played the original Betrayal at House on the Hill and you really enjoyed it, you're definitely going to love this. But there's a few differences. One thing that I'll get into right off the bat is that, unlike in the original Betrayal, where you had the first floor of the house, the second floor of the house, and then the basement, here you can explore the area around the house as well. So I've got several of the starting tiles that you can see here. You start off the game with these, and once again, the further into the game you get, the more house tiles you add to the game. Your characters have a movement speed represented by their stats. So you can see speed is down here, and my family has a speed of 4. That's another thing that's different about the legacy version compared to the original, is that instead of, choosing a character and then taking that character's figurine, you instead have a family. And each time you play the game with its legacy aspect, your family may change, especially if, your family member from the previous game didn't make it. The cool thing is you get to name these family members and even come up with a little bit of a side story as to how these family members may be related, and you can get as funny or as dark as you want to. Another reason you might be changing family members is that, this game takes place over the course of hundreds of years. Your first legacy game starting in 1666, triple sixes, and your last one ending in 2004. I'll once again show that right there. You can see there the list of dates that are on there, and you can see the names that I chose for my family. But anyway, your house or your family is what has these traits. So you'll carry these traits over and play as the same family game after game, which is also different from the original, where it just starts over each time you play, and you just choose whichever character you want and get that figurine. So these are the other figures. And I will say this, these figures aren't as good looking as the figures in the original. They're kind of just more bland, less detail in them. But I have a theory that somewhere in this box are more figurines, and that's probably why they spent a little bit less money on creating these. So just like in the original, you've got your deck of house tiles, and in each one, it'll tell you whether it can go in the upper floor, or whether it can be outside or the ground floor, or whether it can be in the basement. And I won't show you what's on the other sides of these because I can't remember exactly which ones you start off with, but I can safely say that in your first 1 or 2 games, the house isn't going to be so much of a mansion as it is more of a cabin in the woods. One thing that has changed, and I think is for the better, is that not only do the house tiles tell you where they can be placed, but event cards also tell you where they can happen. So you can see that this one can only happen outside, whereas this one can happen in any room of the house or on any floor of the house. So an example of, this outside one, fell wind. Well, it has to do with the wind. So of course the wind is only going to happen outside, and this is a starter card, so there's the other side of that. You can just see that real quick. Another thing is items have returned, of course, and items can also only be gathered in certain rooms or outside of the house, which is also a new change, whereas in the original, events and items could just be triggered in whichever room or whichever story of the house. And the cool thing is some of these items, which may or may not start off the game, have no names. You can name them. They have little things like Paw's claw hammer, and Paw is just written there in the side. And then you'll gain items where they only have a certain number of uses, such as William's water bucket. Notice that we've used the water bucket twice, and when we use it a third time, that item is permanently removed from the game. Or in this case, it says to destroy this card. It actually tells you in the rules to rip this card up and throw it away. Now, you don't have to rip it up. You could maybe just take a permanent marker and draw a big X on it and keep it in the box just as a souvenir. It's up to you. But another cool thing is that you can actually add stickers to these cards to claim them for your family. Not all of them are like this, once again, the well bucket, but the ones that may remain permanently in the game or for an extended period of time can be owned by individual family members, which will give them a boost if they're the ones that use it, which can be very beneficial if you're a survivor, and even more beneficial if you are the traitor, because this game is all about betrayal. And just like in the original, something in the game is going to trigger the betrayal segment, which in certain scenarios in the Legacy version may or may not be called a haunt. There are still 50 haunts in the Traitor's Tome and the Secrets of Survival. And if you're wondering if you can play this game once you're done with the Legacy campaign, I'm happy to say that the answer is a resounding yes. Because, like I said, there's 50 different haunts in this book, and you're absolutely not going to get through every single one of them if you only play the 14 legacy versions of the game. Once you've finished the 14 versions, there's actually more rules that tell you what to do for general play. They're in the back of the rulebook, and it tells you to stop. Don't look at this until you're done with the campaign. So what do I think of this game so far? Well, I really enjoy this, but of course I enjoy any legacy game. I can say this also, Sean, another one of our hosts on the Felred Express, also kind of likes this game. He hates legacy games in general, but this one he's enjoyed so far. And while there are aspects that he doesn't like, such as the fact that you'll only ever play as one family during the entire game, to him seems limiting because, once again, in the original, you can choose from a slurry of different characters. But one thing I really enjoy is the fact that there is a legacy deck, which I haven't showed you here, but I will show you all of these stickers right here. Can you see them right there? All these stickers are different parts of the game. Don't worry. Once again, this is all things that you'll see in the beginning. And then, of course, you can see here there are some rules and or pieces that are covered in these sealed compartments and will only be opened once they are triggered by the legacy deck or by other events. But the legacy deck is what runs the game, and it tells you how the haunts are going to happen in each chapter of your campaign. Now, once the campaign is over, I believe that omens will be what trigger haunts and what determine who a traitor is. That's my theory. If you've played through the entire game and you know the answers to these, please don't spoil anything in the comments. But do leave me a comment below whether you have enjoyed this version of the game more than this version, or vice versa, or if you just enjoyed this at all. And I hope you'll hit that like button, and be sure to check out these other videos that we have going on right now that have to do with horror games, both board games and video games, and hit that if you just want to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll check you next time.